Thank you for having me. It's a great opportunity to talk again about the work that we have done since 2018. Actually, we have done several researches, and it was desk research. Then we were trying to develop tools how to grasp and measure community impact. So it's quite a long process that we went through together with the other researchers. And with practitioners, we have prepared a document, a visual document that you can use, and later we will share the link to it, so you can go more into detail. And today I will talk, as Laimon has said, I will start with what is community, because we asked you to which communities do you feel that you belong to, and there is a wide variety of communities that you connect with. So it is important to figure out, what do we consider community? When we speak about community impact, you have to know what you're talking about, or in the case of applying for projects, what are you writing about? Also, I will talk about what is impact, what kind of impact you can achieve with your project, what kind of impact you can think about when you're planning your project or when you're implementing it. And then we will move into what can you do practically as a practitioner when you're implementing the project to engage with the community more, to have a bigger community impact. And if I will have enough time, I really want to share with you very simple tools and simple approaches on how to know if impact is there, what you can do to know if what you did had an impact on the community, because this is important. When we were doing research, we realized that the European learning mobility projects, European Solidarity Corps is one of the type of projects that you can do. They have significant impact usually, but the organizations do not measure it, and then they do not communicate it. So sometimes it's also important to just learn about it yourself, to write it down, and then talk about it with people so that they know that what you do is important and has a broader impact than an individual level. So I already spoke about this document that we have prepared, this practical guide that you can find on the platform for on learning mobility, and we will share the link with you later. So what does community actually mean? Often, and also you have mentioned several times when you were writing to which communities you belong to, you mentioned geographically. And here in this picture, we see that different squares are sitting inside of a house or a playground or a factory. So we often attribute it to the geography, but we also need to think a little bit broader. So community is something that is informally organized. You cannot say that someone belongs to a community. They have to feel it themselves. So it's connected with the sense of belonging. So even though if I go to church and my parents are making me go to church, but I do not belong as a part of religious community, probably I'm not a part of that community. So it's quite a difficult thing to grasp, and if you would go deeper into a discussion with your peers on what do they consider community and the communities that they feel that they belong to, you would hear a lot of different answers. Often it is connected to geography, as I said, neighborhood, village, city, region, group of countries, a country. And also what we have now are the online communities, right? You can also feel a sense of belonging to an online community. You have similar interests too, right? You join to an online game and you're a community that plays a certain game. Then another thing is connected to the identity. You also wrote about the, several of you mentioned the LGBTQ plus community. Connected to a profession, connected to an organization that you're working for maybe. So the communities can be very diverse. And when you're planning your project or when you're implementing it, you need to be quite precise of what are the communities that you are tackling, right? What are the communities in which you want to achieve a sort of change? And then it's gonna make your life way easier than you know, trying to grasp everyone. We're talking about community impact. So the other thing is impact. What is impact? Often people mix the impact and the results of a project, and it's very very easy to divide. And a result is something that you did. For example, in this picture, you can see there was a wall, right? There was a wall, and you took action to move that wall. So you moved the wall and you made a path. So that path is a result of your action, right? A very concrete thing that you plan to do, to open the wall. And then because you made that path, other things started happening. And then you get impact. Impact is not the same as a result, but impact is happening because of your result, right? So you open the wall, and now a lot of people, the squares that we have here, they can move, right? They can move to other parts of the city, let's call it. Impact can be very different. In learning mobility projects, we're talking about the impact that is direct and indirect. Direct impact we can see in the community with the people who were directly involved into action, right? You were doing activities, for example, a solidarity project where a group of young people were running after school activities with younger kids, right? So there were more people who were directly involved into those actions, right? The school community, for example, they had to help you to organize the surroundings, the materials. They saw what you're doing with the younger kids, and this is the direct impact. They were somewhat involved into your activities. And then we have indirect impact, which happens to people who, because of diverse reasons, were not involved, but not involved directly. But somehow they got to learn about the activities, or they heard about the activities, somebody told them about it, somebody shared their experiences, and now they're more aware, for example. So this is an indirect impact. When you're planning your project, you need to think about both, right? Who will be from the community, who will be directly involved into the activities, and who might hear about the activities, who might learn about them. Another thing that I suggest you think about when you're planning your community impact is that the impact could be intended and unintended. There can be things that you want to achieve with your project, but other things might happen. And if you're aware of that, and you're observing the community and what is happening in it, this can be a very great addition to your project and the evaluation of your project, for example. In this case, we used an example of a garden being planted. We moved a part of wall and we created movement between two parts of the city, and then there was the leftover wall, let's say, and then people built a garden around it. So we did not intend to build the garden, that the garden will be built with our project, but it happened. So if you observe the community and what is happening in it, you can also see that maybe you have contributed to a positive change in your community. And now we're moving to the positive and negative type of impact. And the greatest and most, the easiest example of positive and negative impact is when we talk about learning mobility. When people learn about other countries, they become more skilled, and they move abroad. So the negative impact of that mobility might be the brain drain, and people talk about it a lot, or that the smaller village community is becoming even more small. So when you're thinking about your project, also take into consideration that the impact of your project, of the activities that you will take, can be both positive and negative, and then think what you can do with the negative impact, how to deal with it, how to make it less negative. Almost last thing about what is impact and what is community is how do we experience community impact. And when you're thinking about community impact of European Solidarity Corps projects, there are two communities, let's say, that you need to think about. First one is the hosting community. This one will have the most direct impact because there is a chance that they will be involved into the activities, right? That they will meet the volunteers, for example, who will be working the park next to their home. So they will be exposed to a change that is happening in their community. And it's quite easy to take some measures to engage with them and to make the impact stronger. Also, what another community that is affected is the sending community, because they send out their members and then they return. See, there's sending and returning. And if we learn how to support the people who are returning after, for example, international volunteering, and plan actions how they can benefit the community that they're a part of at home, with sharing the experiences that they gained, through implementing new activities, through developing new things for the community, it can also be a great addition. So when you're planning the community impact of your projects, think about both the hosting community and the sending community or returning community. European Solidarity Corps projects are very different, and all the learning mobility projects are very different. And with each project, you can achieve different type of different level of impact, of community impact. You can be very positive. Forgot the word that I was looking for. So you can think small or you can think big, but you also need to assess the activities that you will do and what is realistic. So when you're planning the community impact of your project, think about the levels that you're capable to achieve with the scale of the activities that you're planning. So the micro level, in this one, you deal with the organization level or with the community members, usually the geographical community, the neighborhood, the street is difficult to grasp, but micro level is the smallest one. You can encourage the interaction and you can achieve great things. Meso level is the bigger one. In this one, we think about the youth work field in general, like why and how the other youth workers, for example, or the other young people who are not from your neighborhood can benefit from the things that you did in your project. And the macro level is the national changes that you can contribute to. It's very important when you're thinking about impact that you do not need to achieve great, huge European policy level impact, but you can contribute to it. Your project is a small step that is contributing to it, a small step towards that. what is the impact or the change that you have achieved with your project? What are you proud of? Something that you did within your project and you're really proud of the impact that it had. I don't know if it's the language thing, but it really makes impact more understandable if you think about it as a change that happens in the community or within people, or what the people who took part in a Solidarity Corps project, what they have learned, and then what they did with it.
And we have some answers coming in. So Katrina wrote increased youth employability. Johannes wrote creating prototypes of future learning, working and living together. And with that, finding patterns of society, which can help to create a more sustainable world. Heidi wrote helping unprivileged high school students to be familiar and getting better quality education opportunities. Anna wrote, didn't have that experience of running a project yet. Francisco sharing that the impact of the project was actually reducing food waste and making people taking some actions towards this. Another Francisco wrote, it's a micro impact but huge. I helped a youngster to become a volunteer for a year in Sicily. And this person now is a huge human being, like I was described. And person was not qualified for studies, but then there was big experience and growth happening. Improved positive attitudes towards urban arts, Katarina shared. So we can see impact mentioned on a person, impact in terms of attitude, or impact in terms of providing more opportunities, or creating something new that probably will create an impact in the future. So, Justina, what's your feeling from what you see?
That the impact is not something that is fixed, right? You can have very diverse impacts, let's say, and to have an impact on one person's life is a great achievement, I think. Positive attitudes towards something, an amazing achievement. But what it reminded me of is that we also need to think about that the things that we do and we plan and we will improve positive attitudes. It can happen that you support negative attitudes, and therefore we need to be really prepared, because impact is something that is rather difficult to control, I would say. But amazing things can be done and are being done. It's just important to grasp it. So what you can do practically, I'm going to share a couple of ideas, and then if you will go on the document publication that we prepared, you will find a lot of ideas there that you're free to use, and then use it for inspiration, and then include them into your activities. So what can you do practically is first thing is to do the project activities in the community or with the community. This grants the biggest impact, because the people get to see it themselves. Another thing is to do activities with others outside of the learning program. So you plan within the learning program, and then outside of the learning program, there are also things that you can do. Also the multiplier events. I'll talk about these shortly a bit later. What is important is when you're planning the interaction with the community, is to make the participation balanced. So if you have a big international group, let's say group volunteering project, the short one, and then you invite a couple of locals, they might not benefit from interaction with the participants, because they might be more interested in the communication inside of their group, rather than communication outside with the community members. So make sure that you balance it out with in the terms of numbers or experiences of locals and the participants of your project. You can support other initiatives, go to the events of other organizations, for example, and build networks. You can eat and buy local in social type of enterprises. What is important is to learn about the community up front and prepare the participants for interaction, so that they would not be closed within their own circle of volunteers or of the participants. Here are some ideas how to engage with the community, and there is plenty, from sporting events to flash mobs to treasure hunts that you can include into the learning program. You can do a welcome party with locals. We did it in one of the big projects, and it was very interesting because we were very similar in numbers, and then we actually had to do activities together. We had to actually interact with the locals, and that was an amazing learning experience in terms of learning about the community and intercultural learning. What can you do outside of the learning program is try out homestays for participants, staying with local families, then meeting with the host families, inviting wider family or friends into the out of program activities, and so on. And you can also do multiplier events. So to introduce what you did to the broader society, like an event where you make an exhibition of the project in the community, and they can go there and check what you did regardless of the time. Like, it doesn't have to be on a particular hour on a particular day. How to know if impact is there, and I will try to fit this into 2 minutes. So impact, you know if impact is there if it was not there before and after it's there. With the impact, with measuring impact, the thing is that you need to have the point where you started. You need to check what is before you start the project, and then after you do all the activities, you check how is the community after the project. And you can do that with diverse methods. You can do interviews with the community members, and I underline community members, because if you want to achieve change in a certain community, you need to ask that certain community where they are now, and then ask them again where they are later. You can do interviews, you can do questionnaires, you can gather a small group of community and do a focus group discussion about a certain topic that you're doing your project on. You can ask them to write diaries, you can ask them to take photos, you can take the photos yourselves, or take a video with the participants on how the community or I don't know, a certain place of the town was at the beginning of the project, and what it is, how is it at the end of the project. And then you compare the videos or the photos, and you can actually see the difference if you were aiming for a physical type of change. You can just do an observation. You describe the things as they are. You ask the young people to describe it, or the community members to describe it. Beginning of the year, end of the year, beginning of the project, end of the project. So what is important is that you do it before and then you do it after. If you only do it after, then you do not see the change, because you don't know from what it changed into this. So when you're planning impact, planning community impact, what you need to do is to be very clear what is the change that you want to see in the community, and then be clear what is the community that you want to engage or inform or include. Describe the situation in the community before the project, and do the activities, include the community, the actual community, into your activities, and then describe it after. And then you will see what kind of impact your project had.
Do you think that in solidarity projects that most of the time do not involve this geographical exchange of people in mobility, do you think that there can still be some sort of trickle-down effect that impact could reach also other communities rather than just the town where it's happening?
Good question. I believe yes. For, let's say, a group of young people decided to clear out the area around the youth center, right? Solidarity project, a simple one. And then they can reach the other communities from the other towns, from the other cities through media, through communication. And this is one of the most used thing that people are achieving their impact or relying on the impact. They say, we will post about our project, we will post about what we were doing on the medias, we will inform this and that amount of people. This is an implied impact. We think and we hope that it will be there, like we will inspire someone, we will share what we did and we will inspire. Usually what is difficult here is that we don't know. At the end, we don't know if we have inspired them, or have they read it, what we wrote, have they watched it, what we made. This is the tricky part. But yes, absolutely, I think it can go further. And I don't know how about your Facebooks, but my Facebook is full of initiatives of young people that they are doing in different parts of Lithuania or of Europe.